Hello, this is Old Man Tony. Hope you're all well. Just taking the bike in for its first annual service at Norfolk Triumph, otherwise known as Lings, in Watton, in Norfolk. I've done quite as many miles on it as I thought I would. So I got it at this time last year, and I've managed about 3,500 miles. So, not a good year for biking. Well, not too bad, but not as many as I thought I might have done. And today I thought I'd talk about some confusion in the English language. When I say confusion, I mean the differences between what the North Americans call things, so that's the Canadians and the guys from the United States, and what we call things here in the UK, where the language originated. It can be a bit confusing, so I'm trying to undo some of that confusion. The first one that springs to mind is when we talk about shops in the UK, we tend to be talking about places where you go buy things. So I think in America they call them stores. Well, stores in the UK are places where you keep things. So all the spare parts, if you work in a factory environment or a workshop or something, are called stores. But in America, that's the shops where you buy things. But a shop in the UK is where we actually buy things. Now I'm getting confused, and so let's continue a bit further. Another one, the Americans have these things at the side of the road. There's one running along there called a sidewalk. We call them a pavement. But when the Americans talk about a pavement, they're talking about a roadway where traffic goes along and it's got a hard surface on. We just call it a road. And there's various things that we call the coatings and what have you. So the stuff that's on the surface is often called tarmac in the UK, which is short for tar macadam, which is a mixture of stones and tar. And I think it's called tar macadam because it was invented by a Scotsman called Macadam. But this confusion just goes on and on. We have ladybirds in the UK. In North America they have ladybugs. And if we're often talking about birds in the UK, we sometimes mean women. So it just gets confusion. So if you're talking about a ladybird, it's not a female lady, attractive lady. It's an insect with spots on its back. And there you get the difference in units that we use. So in the UK we're a bit of a hybrid nation where we use some metric units and some the old-fashioned units. So when we're talking about the weight of people, generally in the UK people talk about their weight in stones, and stones are a unit that doesn't even exist in the United States. It's actually 14 pounds, and so we get measured in stones, they get measured in pounds, but these days a lot of people get measured in kilograms. And if you go to Canada, they've gone a lot further down the metric route than we have in the UK. So they even use kilometres on the road signs, whereas we're still on miles. And when you delve a bit deeper into the use of units, we use quite a lot of metric units in science, like joules and kilojoules and that sort of thing, whereas when we're talking about units of heat in America, they talk in terms of BTUs, which is actually British thermal units, but BTUs are hardly ever used in the UK anymore. When you look at the labels on appliances and things, it probably has kilojoules and so on. But you know, we do have common things like watts when it comes to electricity. And kilowatt hours and that sort of thing, which are often called a unit, just to confuse things a bit even more. And it was also interesting when I was working to talk to the Americans about measures of grains like wheat and maize and barley and things, and they'd be talking about bushels. And a bushel is a unit in the UK that disappeared years and years ago, but they still talk about bushels in the USA, and I have no idea what a bushel is. I think it's just some kind of volume unit, whereas we tend to talk in kilograms over here, or tons. And when we talk in tons, we mean metric tons, which is 1,000 kilos, where the Americans, they have long tons and short tons, which are a number of pounds, and don't ask me how many pounds are in a ton. But generally the term ton works because it's quite a big heavyweight, and there's not too much difference between an American ton and a European ton, except the European ton is spelt with an extra NE on the end of the word, whereas the American ton is just TON. Yeah, when we're talking about temperature over here in Europe and in Canada to some extent, we tend to these days talking in terms of Celsius or centigrade, some people like to call it, and we're thinking 25 degrees is quite a warm, nice day, whereas if you go to the USA, if it's 25 degrees, it's pretty cold because that's below freezing. So I often start my vlogs with a tale about the weather and the temperature. So today it's 21.5 degrees Celsius. Now someone once told me the quickest way to convert that into Fahrenheit, which the Americans use, is double it and add 30. So that's 43 plus 30, 73 degrees, which seems quite a nice day really. Not too hot. Now there's loads of other terms that are different and used quite regularly. I think Americans still use the term turnpike for a major road, but turnpike is a word that died out back in the Victorian age in the UK, I think, so it's often associated with highwaymen and that sort of thing. So there's dozens of other words that can cause confusion. Perhaps you'd like to comment about them and stick something in below. And if you find things that I say are confusing, please leave a comment and I'll try and do a translation for you. So that's it. The Americans and the British, and two nations divided by a common language, I think people said. So that's all for now. I think I've rambled on enough about this subject, but as I said, if you've got anything you'd like to add, please leave a comment below or even make a video response. So this has been Old Man Tony. Goodbye.